We've been talking a lot about housing this half hour. A new report says the majority of investors who took on mortgages in 2022 to pay for new Toronto condos have been losing money every month, a shift that could discourage future building in what has already been one of the tightest rental markets in North America. This is a report from CIBC and the research firm Urban Nation. And for the first time, more than half of investors who closed on a new condo unit with a mortgage in the Greater Toronto area last year were unable to cover their costs when they started renting it out. And housing affordability is getting discussed on the campaign trail in the lead up to Toronto's mayoral election. Wanted to get some perspective, though, on some of the solutions you hear on the campaign trail and whether or not they actually are meaningful ideas for dealing with housing uncertainty. So John Pasalis, our good friend, president broker at Realosophy Realty, joining us here in studio. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having me.
We don't really get into politics, at least at the local level in Toronto, but you know, people do hear about these solutions, especially in the biggest markets. What are some of the things you've heard, at least on the campaign trail, and do they really net us material solutions to the housing crisis?
We've heard a few decent things. I mean, I'd say the one thing that's missing are strong vision. We're in a crisis in Toronto, and we need, our policymakers, politicians to have, very big, bold decisions. And I think the one thing that's missing is really strong policies on increasing density. A lot of the mayors are talking about how they're going to advocate for missing middle. And they're not really introducing a lot of policies. Matlow did introduce and suggest that he's going to increase sort of the height on some of the major avenues to a minimum 9 stories as of right. And these are the types of policies that we need to see coming from our mayors.
More density.
100%. I mean, if we're not, density is the most important issue right now for market housing. I mean, if they're not allowing more housing, especially close to transit areas, so taller buildings, and even more dense, low-rise, multi-unit buildings, then we're not doing much, and we're not going to increase, the supply of housing that we need in the Toronto area. And
what stands in that way? If you're a politician and you really make that argument, where are you going to run into red tape, would you say?
Well, I think the concern is that, that this is not going to be popular with some of their voters, and maybe that's why some of the mayors are not talking about it. A lot of the concern is pushback from NIMBYs, people not wanting taller buildings, people not wanting apartment buildings in their neighborhoods. But I think Toronto needs to change. I mean, we did see the city push for fourplexes, and that got passed, which is a very good step forward, but not enough.
But do these become, because I mean, certainly we're zeroing in on Toronto, but we've got big cities across this country, and as a country overall, we've got an immigration policy which is bringing a lot of new Canadians here for the foreseeable future.
Exactly.
So do cities have to be ready for taller buildings?
100%. We have to be. I mean, and that's the thing. It's our federal government's, changing and ramping up immigration, but at a local level, we're not adjusting, and things are moving at a snail's pace. And they needs to be moving more rapidly. And yes, when you increase density, especially in low-rise neighborhoods, one of the positives is that you take something that was a single-family home or 2 single-family homes and you create 8 or 10 units out of it. You're not just creating more housing. You're shifting some of that supply out of the hands of the big builders, who are driving much of our supply, into smaller developers, which is what we want.
And I just shifting the conversation back to the math of the business. Obviously, when interest rates were near zero, there was a lot of activity. We saw interest rates ratcheted up in a big way. We just highlighted, I guess, for people who invested in the condo market, that's a quick learning lesson on, how you can be in the red quickly. But generally, the housing trends have improved over the last few months.
They have improved. I mean, the market for the resale market has improved. So resale prices have picked up, but we're probably going to continue to see pressure on the supply side. We're not going to see as many launches. We're not going to see, starts are going to slow down. Building permits are going to slow down. And part of the reasons that you've highlighted, I mean, in this environment with high rates, it's a lot harder to do that. And, if that's going to be the challenge in the months ahead for sure.
Yeah, and but did the stall out in rates, because we were having a conversation earlier about that, did that literally bring people back into the market?
I think that's exactly what happened in January. I mean, people moved to the sidelines in 22. They saw that Bank of Canada, believed that Bank of Canada was going to hit pause, and then buyers flooded back into the market this year.
Interesting. So I guess for those who are trying to figure out, okay, what actually leads to larger buildings being built. Like, how does that happen in your estimation?
Yeah, I mean, again, policymakers the mayor needs to push for policies that increase density. So taller buildings on the main avenues, getting rid of these angular planes that lead to these silly buildings that have step backs from the low-rise areas, and allowing more multi-use housing in low-rise neighborhoods. Like I said, they're allowing fourplexes, but fourplexes isn't enough.